kind of got into it, we need more police officers. Downtown is growing. And when things occur downtown on the weekends, when we have tens of thousands of people down here, they have to pull the officers from north of here. And it does affect the rest of the city. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm one of these three that you say the safety is primary. It's real simple. We can talk about any other issue tonight, and if we don't have a safe community, we aren't getting, our kids and grandkids aren't moving home. I was the board chair at Visit Pensacola, and we've seen record-breaking tourism every single year. We would not see any tourism if we aren't safe communities. Our community truly erodes if we aren't safe. So, you know, I really focus on two main issues, but I'm fortunate to have the support of Chip Simmons. He has endorsed my candidacy, as has the Pensacola Fire Union, as has Tommy Leiter, and of course Chip and Tommy spent several years as the chief of police in the Pensacola Police Department, because they know how I feel and about one important issue is sometimes it's not all about, you know, politicians like to get up here and say, you know, here's everything that I know. Sometimes you empower people by knowing what you don't. And what that means is the CEO position, the mayor of Pensacola, is a management position that puts people in the best position to be successful. That's what they do. So if it's resources, if it's training on community policing, which I believe, you know, is obviously a big point. As Steve said, of course, gun violence is something that has really plagued us and affected us. But at the end of the day, you know, we really want to have a safe city. If you look at employee engagement right now, police department, we don't have a real engaged police department. So what can the mayor do? The mayor's not the one needing to get in the squad car and risking their life. That's why these people are heroes. What I need to do is put our fire and our police in the best positions to be successful, to listen to their needs, their concerns, and not talk at them, listen to them and empower them to make sure that they make the best decisions to keep you guys safe.
Thank you. Police, they're the first and foremost, the most important part of our city. We want to make sure that we have them with the adequate resources, the adequate training that they need, but everything is not policing away. I believe in community policement, and that's policing engagement. We've lost police engagement in the police force over 10, 15 years ago. And those same people that were endorsing are the same people that were a part of it when we lost community engagement. So we need community policing back. That is, we need to see our police officers and not just see our police officers when we need them, and they come, and they do come, and they come in record time when we call them. But we also need to see them other than that. So I do believe in community policing. I do believe that we need to pay them a salary so that we can retain those officers and also provide those training about what we mean about community policing. But the other big issue in our community, I feel that is a source or indirect source of our issue is drug, opioids issues in our community. And normally those drug issues always lead to other issues, always lead to other areas of crime. And I feel that we have one of the highest numbers of drug issues in this state. We also have to use that, follow that, but also partner with our lobbying partners, partner with our counselors so that we can be able to address those particular issues. And also strong neighborhoods. Yes, sidewalks are important, but sidewalks doesn't mean anything when you're afraid to go out the door to walk down the sidewalk. So I feel that if we come together, like you all here, and be a strong neighborhood group, we can be the eyes and ears of our community.
Mr. Shaw, maintenance of city assets is either inadequate or poorly managed. Existing parks and other community spaces are not being maintained on a regular basis, and infrastructure maintenance, which involves multiple city, county, and state agencies, lacks coordination. A street will dig up and repave by one agency and then dug up again by another agency to fix a different problem. This is a waste of taxpayer money. If elected, how will you ensure better park maintenance and coordination of infrastructure work?
Amen. Yeah. you know, we have the Palafox Pier, we have the Maritime Park that was severely damaged by Sally a couple of years ago. And they're still working on fixing it. And once again, I ride a bike. I used to ride down there all the time and kind of dodge around it even though it's barricaded off. And it's not major structure work that needs to be done. Some fill dirt needs to be put in, some pavers need to be, you know, replaced, some concrete needs to be poured. And I've dealt with FEMA when I was at the school district, when we dealt with all the hurricanes. But the city, for that to sit there for 2 years, it's just inexcusable. The city should have something in place where they can go in there and deal with that. They should have the financing, the funding, and the staffing. And the same with the parks. You know, we outsource park maintenance. And, you know, if you outsource something, you may save a few dollars, but they just don't have the same commitment that, you know, that city employees do, that are being driven by the city and that are being overseen by the mayor. In regard to, coordination, you know, we go in and we pave a street, and then a month or two later, ECUA or ESP or somebody else comes in, and they dig a big hole to put in a line or to do some sort of repair. And they do some minimal patching over it, which lasts for about a month, and then you end up with a sinkhole. You can drive all over town and see this. So as mayor, I will make sure that our planning and our capital improvement departments work with the other agencies, both at the state and county level, to make sure these things are coordinated. Thank you.
You really can't fix what you don't measure, and if you look at a lot of city departments, we're really not measuring very much right now. You know, you talk to people in permitting and zoning, you say, how many days did it take a turn permit? We don't know. So, not picking on any individual group, but the reality is, we have to take more pride in our public spaces and the beautification of our public spaces. There's no question about it. We have 93 parks. We have 72 playgrounds. An average city our size, 39 square miles, would have 17. We have 72. We replace 5 or 6 a year at about 350 to 500,000 a clip. And obviously no neighborhood, understandably, is volunteering to give up their playground. So we're in an $8 million situation of maintaining a lot of parks. It's what makes us great. It's what makes us unique. It's something that we certainly should not be ashamed of, but we do have to start measuring performance. If we're outsourcing, how are we checking on that? If we do insource, you know, we have to ensure that we have enough oversight to make sure that your park is cut and that our spaces look beautiful, because that's our advertising every day. It's a service. That $8 million is a service to the taxpayer, to you guys as residents. That you should expect that from your city. But let's go back to talking about people wanting to live here, or our kids wanting to move back. You know, I walk around at parks and sometimes it's embarrassing. I mean, the way they look. And so I get that. I get that frustration. So what I plan to do, not just in Parks and Recreation, but every single department we have, is we're going to find key performance indicators that are set the tone for what the outcomes that we expect. So instead of saying, how is this group performing? I don't know, pretty good. We're going to be able to tell you exactly how every department in our city is performing by those key performance metrics.
It has been evident over the years that we need to coordinate, and when I say the city, with other agencies to ensure that when they get ready to do projects and planning, sometimes people are just very territorial, whether it's ECUA or whether it's a county. Everybody's kind of territorial and don't want to come together, but we have to come together. There are some issues that are just bigger than who we are as a city, and so we must share in those. I know that those holes that are dug by ECUA, there should have been coordination with when they were going to be refilled, or why are they digging holes here? I mean, it's just insane, the fact that we are not able to coordinate with that. So I will be able to deal with that. The other thing is our park maintenance. On Saturday, I brought 22 of my cousins that we had not gotten together since COVID, and we went to the Chapter James Museum. And I was embarrassed There had been no landscaping done, seems like in months there. When you have 93 parks, we have to talk about not only, and everything ends up about money. So one of the things that's merit that I would like to see us do as a city is talk about how we spend our money. Where should that money go and how should we prioritize that money? $8 million seems like a lot of money, but $8 million is not a lot of money when you have 93 parks and not including the recreational complexes that they include there. So the city of Pensacola needs to come together as a city, the neighborhoods, the community, the citizens, and talk about how we prioritize our dollars, where we get those dollars from, so that we can ensure that our services are being met, whether or not it's sanitation or whether or not it's parks.
Ms. Morris?
Okay, so you picked up the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I throw you off?
Okay. Well, this is a very passionate issue for me. We do have terrible park and facility maintenance in the city, and I have been very vocal about this. I have done many live stream videos of the conditions of many of our parks. It's unconscionable. It's unconscionable that there are so many violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act in our parks, even this park, right over there in the parking lot. And and I just don't understand it. I really don't. But I will tell you, if I'm elected mayor, you will see a different standard of maintenance. You will see that all of these problems with ADA violation are going to be fixed. All of these maintenance issues are going to be addressed. And I see that we have some members of our Park and Rec Board here. One of the things that I've done recently as a council member is to bring before the City Council an ordinance which allows our Park and Rec Board to have more authority. And so we have a great Park and Rec Board, and we need to rely on them to give us the advice that we need. We're getting ready to do a brand new assessment of all of our parks. We did an assessment, I think, about 5 or 6 years ago. I think that's right. However, the things that were recommended, not all of them were implemented. But this is something that really, really concerns me. It's a lack of maintenance, and some of it is illegal because it's in violation of federal and state law when you are in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So, is that a bell?
Yes.
Well, if they get too close, they...
Question to you, Mr. Chair. Okay, moving on to question number 5. How do you define affordable housing? And what are your plans to ensure affordable housing for middle-income wage earners, such as Pensacola firemen, police officers, and mail carriers, who earn between $34,200 and $50,500? Since housing should take no more than 30% of the family's income, these people should be spending no more than $855 to $1,262 on housing, which in many cases won't even cover the cost of a one-bedroom apartment in Pensacola. Even worse, since the average pay for Pensacola teachers is only $25,786 a year, a teacher is the sole breadwinner can afford to spend only $644 a month. Ms. Reeves?
Well, the question of how I define it, I think that's a pretty good definition. You know, that's a pretty industry standard, national standard to say whether 30% of the family's income. I look at affordable housing as really a two-part issue. One is our ability to raise supply, period, just supply in general in our community. And two is the tactical hyper-intensity on workforce housing, the folks that you just mentioned. people who preserve lives, enrich lives, save lives, firemen, our teachers, our police officers, our nurses, people that are vital to living here. And I talk about it all the time when I take my daughter to AK Suter and think that there's a teacher that lives there, that works there, or teaches my daughter that can't afford to live in the city. It's pretty saddening, honestly. So the first thing we have to focus on is raising supply, period. And that means we've got to help the process be a little cleaner. We can't move the goalposts on people that want to add, because if we just snapped our fingers and had 1,000 more units in our city just right now, what would happen to rental rates? At minimum, they would plateau. It's a supply and demand issue that we're facing right now, and we've bottlenecked that a little bit on our own by not really having clear standards for when people want to develop here. So that's number one. Number two is hyper-focus on workforce housing. The city has a lot of land. The county has even more, including some within the city limits. That is our bridge, which is beginning now, as a matter of fact. That is our bridge to be able to take a private company, like a builder, and a family that's described in an income situation like you just described in this question, to be able to afford it. So we're going to continue to push forward aggressively on being able to leverage the property that is sitting out there for us right now, and be able to get that in the hands of people like our teachers, our nurses, and our police officers.
I agree that it is a supply and demand issue. As a council person before I left in 2020, the council passed 500 homes in 5 years initiative. That was just a step. I don't know where all of this land that the city has. Most of the land that the city has is in our parks, and those 93 parks is land ownership. I don't see anyone giving up their park in their community for housing. The bottom line is that the city will eventually have to purchase land to do a major supply issue of homes, and that is where we are. We will be able to use some of the excess land that we have and that is available, but at the bottom line, we're going to have to be more aggressive and going after properties like other developers are, so that we can ensure a stream of housing. I, as a teacher myself, I was an educator for 27 years, and I retired in November. They often told me, they said, well, Jules, we can't afford to live downtown, and I know that I want to fix that. We can't afford to live in the city. So we need to fix that, and we're going to have to offer something, and it's going to cost money. It's not going to be free, and it's going to be offset with land. So I'm looking forward to working on that. Also, there's home ownership that is important, but there's also, we need more rentals, because some people are not ready for that. And so we have to have programs for rental individuals as well, so that they can get prepared for home ownership. Even though interest rates are going up, it is still cheaper to be a homeowner than it is right now in the city of Pensacola to rent. So we have to get people prepared in which to do that. Yes, our income, they have the average teacher salary down here at $25,000 on the average, but it's more than that now. So I'm looking forward to continuing my initiative on housing. Thank you.
Well, this is one of the most important issues we're facing in this city, is affordable housing. And I get very nervous when I hear people say affordable housing, because what affordable means to some people who say that is not affordable to me. I know a lot of people who are no longer able to rent and living in their cars because they cannot afford rent. So I do have a plan to address this issue. And we do have a goal of 500 homes in 5 years, but we need a lot more than that. We need thousands of new renters and homeowners in this city. The city, and there's a way to do it. Go to my website, Sherry Myers, 4, mayor.com. I have a plan, and it's in there. So I agree with former Councilwoman Joel Canada-Wynn that the city needs to purchase land. We need to look, though, at moving outside of just downtown. There are so many opportunities in the north end of the city, and the land is much more affordable. There are incredible opportunities to partner with private businesses and nonprofits to build affordable housing, especially there's a big demand for senior housing and for low-income rental housing. And we need to do everything we can to help that market. Did I hear a bell? Oh, okay, so, that's just Mayor Trini. Hey, I think housing I can afford, let me just put it that way.
I'll give you 15 seconds.
15 seconds. Well, if you're going to do that, I'm going to say that now I've lost my train of thought. I'm not missing the train, and I'm on board with you, okay?
Yeah, this is another big challenge. Yeah, we need to work with developers and build more houses. That's something we definitely need to look at. But if we're giving them incentives to do that, we need to hold them to those. Southtown was supposed to be affordable workplace housing, and it's not. Okay, it's not. I promise you. I talk to people all the time. I live across from the new housing project that was put in where Blunt Middle School was. That was supposed to be affordable housing. The first section of housing on Gregory Street met that definition. The other houses didn't. I know that because one of my daughters didn't try to buy a house, but they investigated, and the prices on the rest of the houses are not affordable. The other thing that I've talked about doing, with all the development going on the west side, we're running a lot of our older residents out of the west side and other areas in town, but mainly on the west side. These are what I call legacy residents. They've lived there for decades, they've worked there, they've raised their families. Property values are going up, which is a good thing, but along with that, property tax goes up and homeowners insurance goes up. They can't afford it, and they're having to sell and move somewhere else. I'm proposing that we provide a property tax deferment for those qualified legacy residents to help them stay in those homes. They would continue to pay whatever their average property tax increase was until they sell the house or it no longer, maintains its homestead exemption. Then once it is sold, that money goes back. They do go back and pay the property tax, so the city does not lose any money. And I've also proposed that we do something similar for new homeowners, first-time home buyers that are at or below the median income. Thank you.
My name is Sean. Okay, next question. Ms. Candowen. A city benefits from many jobs provided by our healthcare systems and every federal credit union. What is your plan to increase blue and white collar jobs that pay a living wage in keeping with our current housing prices?
Thank you. I look forward to trying to bring more manufacturing jobs into the city of Pensacola. About a month ago, Santa Rosa landed a manufacturing job, and the question is, why can't the city of Pensacola and Escambia County land those manufacturing jobs? So I would like to see more manufacturing jobs brought here to the city of Pensacola and in our area. I also would like to see more emphasis put on small businesses, because small businesses are the ones who do a lot of our hiring and maintaining our workforce. The livable wage, I know that within, even if you go up to $15 an hour, which Florida minimum wage would eventually do, that still only brings you in about $30,000 a year. So unless my math is bad, and I've never been good at math, people. Here's not mad, and so that's still only about $30,000. So that wage need to go up just a little bit more than that. We need manufacturing jobs and jobs that pay between $42,000 and $50,000. Thank you.
This is another question I love, because in my district, Uptown, I have Sacred Heart Hospital that has over 1,000 employees. I have many medical offices in District 2. And so Sacred Heart has just opened up 2 new facilities, one on Summit and another one on Grande. I have a new, huge 5-acre rehab facility on Grande Street. So our medical profession that pays really great wages is really, really growing very rapidly. And there are a lot of opportunities in this profession. Also, Pensacola State is in my area of town in District 2 with 10,000 students a year. And many of those students are taking courses and getting degrees in the healthcare profession. So that's one profession that we really, really have a great opportunity to support and that pays good jobs. Now, do not forget about the hundreds of millions of dollars that has been put into ST Engineering over at the airport for airplane mechanic jobs. Now look, I'm the only council person who routinely asks ST Engineering to come before the city council and tell us how many people they have hired. And that is accountability. We need to make sure that they're hiring a lot of people and that they're hiring people from the city of Pensacola, that they're hiring women and minorities. And I'm pleased to tell you, when they give me their numbers, they are hiring a lot of people in our area, and they're hiring women and minorities, and we need to continue to press for that type of accountability. Amen?
So, this is the first time I've had to follow Sherry, because it's been entertaining. And actually, you stole some of my thunder there. I was going to talk about ST Engineering. Those are the type of jobs we need to bring in here. But once again, if we bring those companies in here and we're providing incentives, we need to make sure that they're doing their part and they are providing the jobs that they said they were going to do. Another important thing is, Pensacola is trying to develop itself as a cyber coast. Cybersecurity is very, very important, and it's a growing. It's skyrocketing. It's important to this area, number one, because of all the military we have around here, especially. Okay, I guess there are problems with this mic. Sorry. Especially with Corey Station. So we need to have a good, strong cybersecurity base here to support Corey. But also, it provides very good jobs. I was meeting a couple of weeks ago with some cybersecurity people at Seville Square or Seville Quarter, and they work in various aspects of it. They're having a hard time finding people to fill these positions. One gentleman I was speaking with said, there are kids that are coming out of PJC with certain certificates. I'm not an IT guy, but they're starting out at $60,000 to $70,000 straight out of Pensacola State College. We need to make sure that our kids realize this opportunity is available and push them in that direction. They're good jobs. It has a lot of growth. There's a lot of future there. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I said a minute ago. I'm a big believer, capital follows talent, talent follows place. So when I talk about Pensacola being on the precipice of great things, what I mean is we have a world-class beach in a beautiful town here, a great place to live. And we talk to our friends from out of town, we brag about, some of the great things. We're not perfect, certainly, but some of the great things about living in Pensacola. There's two data points I want you to leave with this question. Number one, I mentioned earlier, more than half the jobs that are white-collar jobs in the United States are remote. They can live anywhere they want. So would you rather live in the tundra of Canada, or would you rather live up near this beach? That's the first question. That's a big opportunity for us societally. That's just happening. The second is, I'm 38. Anybody younger than me that is in the workforce, 21, 22 to 38, are the first two generations in the history of the United States that will move to a place and then find a job. So I have about 35 employees at 4 locations at craft brewery, bar, restaurant. More than half of them have college degrees. And they're saying, hey, I want to live in a beautiful place like this. And then when I find that right opportunity somewhere else, I'll move there. So we sit right now on the edge of really great things if we can capture building place, because that is what, the battle is not shovel-ready land. That is an site selection. That's a part of it. That's one of the dominoes. But today's battlefront in economic development is talent. And you go talk to people in Louisville, Savannah, Nashville, anyone else, that's a battle that other cities are already fighting that we need to start taking on.
Amen.
So this question is to Ms. Myers. Pensacola historic preservation districts like Seville, North Hill, and Old East Hill have endured years of illegal, unpermitted construction and lack of enforcement of ARB decisions and district standards by the inspection department. Are you willing to manage and even reform the inspections department so that it properly enforces preservation district standards?
Yes, you're asking me a question, is yes, absolutely. Historical preservation has always been very high on my list of priorities, and it will continue to be. It grieves me to no extent that certain structures have been torn down. I think about the school board building over there on Garden Street. That was a WPA project. I grew up in a housing project. That was a WPA project. My mother worked on WPA projects when she was young, and so the preservation of our history, our historical districts is very important. And this is why I have raised, one of the reasons I've raised the issue of gentrification. Because we need stable neighborhoods. We need to make it possible to preserve neighborhoods, and not just buildings, but neighborhood preservation. So I will do whatever is in my power as mayor that I can do to make sure that we have a very robust preservation. And so I can absolutely give you that commitment. It's very high on my list of priorities. It grieves me when I still drive by where John Sunday's house was. The city should have bought that property, and we should start buying up property to preserve it, in my opinion. So I will do everything in my power to make sure that that happens.
Yes, we need to protect our historical districts. That's what makes Pensacola so unique. It's our history. So I am definitely in support of that. In regard to reforming the inspections department, yes, I've already talked about that. In my 22 for 22 first 100-day action plan, that's at the top of the list. I hear from business people all the time that our planning, permitting process is broke. I've been told if you take a project, same project to the city, same project to the county, it's going to take 3 to 4 times longer in the city than the county. There's miscommunication between departments. Just the whole flow of the process is not working. So yes, we do need to take care of that situation. Thank you.
So I've been through this process before. Every single business that I've opened has been in front of the ARB one way or another. And here's what I'd say. I mentioned earlier, we have to start streamlining the process on the inspections part within 48% of our revenue in our city, 34% property tax, 14% franchise fee. That's the couple nickels the city gets on your power bill, your cell phone bill. 48% of our revenue is driven by people living here. So yes, we need to reform in inspections. We have to not move the goalposts. We have to make clear rules and guidelines for developers, builders, because they deserve that. And these are people wanting to invest in our city and give us 48% of our general fund revenue. That being said, we will not give up on the character of our city. There's a reason people travel to Charleston and Savannah, and it's because they want to see the tree canopy the way it looks. They want to see beautiful buildings. and they want to see the history of the city. So that is not something that will be negotiable within wanting to streamline development. So it doesn't mean cut corners, it doesn't mean change rules. We've got to make it easier, and people who want to risk their money to invest in our city and bring us more housing, we need to help them, but we will not give up the character of our community. As a matter of fact, there's a term in traffic engineering that is just well known that's called Pensacola parking syndrome. And what that means is we got named for that because we were knocking down buildings to build parking lots, and then you had a lot of parking, but there was nowhere to go because you knocked the building down where they parked. So that was from years and years ago, but we are going to invest and continue to maintain what makes us special as a beach town. There's a lot of beach along here, within an hour of us each way, but nobody has a downtown like we do. It's because of the character that we have.
Pensacola is 450 years old, and we must maintain that character of our city. There are some issues or decisions that are made that people did not disagree with or don't disagree with it. The first step in dealing with the ARB is to review the standards and the guidelines in which they are used to judge properties and other land. That is a part of the mayor's office, and it will be a part of the city council, because the city council they're the ones who are over committees for the city of Pensacola. So we should be able to define those standards and make those standards clear of those expectations. I was a part of an 8-year process with the Ella Jordan House on C and Lulu Street. Everyone wanted us to tear down that property. That house was built in 1890. It was purchased by Ella Jordan in 1929 so that it could be preserved and used as a part of the Federation of Colored Women's Homes for activities in the minority community and in that community. It took 8 years and $382,000 to do it, but the community as a whole did it, and they came together. We could preserve Pensacola, and we could keep the essence of our community. The inspections department, there are different inspections, whether it's permitting processes or whether it's going out to investigate and look at standards. If that is a problem, yes, we're going to look at it. I am going to look at it to make sure that the standards are clear and correct. Historical preservation is a must, and it's just not in these old historic areas, which are beautiful areas and have beautiful homes. I do believe 3 or 4 years ago, the city passed an ordinance where if a home was a building was 100 years old, it came up for review. So that was one of the steps in which we took at that time.
Thank you. So in the interest of time, we're going to have to cut to the last question. Steve, this will come to you. It's not a tough one. What is the last book you read?
Do I have 2 minutes? It was a Charles Bukowski anthology.
All right, well, if anybody says my microbrewery handbook, I might vote for you. So, I read, the last book I read, and actually watched the HBO documentary on, if you haven't seen it, is Hard Towns. It's a 10,000-mile journey into the heart of America. Jim and Deb Fallows, they visited here at Civicon, and what they did is they jumped on a little biplane and they went to basically the heartbeat of America, and all these different towns that have dealt with all these different types of conflict or big issues, and how they've overcome them. And I might be a little biased. At the end of the book, they go through 10 different things that what they believe after all of this research and 100,000 miles, what they believe to be 10 focal points of what makes a great city. And I won't, in my 2 minutes, go through all those. But they have a 10A, and it says a craft beer scene. So I don't know, maybe I'm just biased to that book, but it's a great one. And if you don't have time for a book, HBO has it as a documentary now. It's really, really fantastic.
The last book I read was Michelle Obama's autobiography. Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was great. I was inspired.
Well, I have to admit I start and stop a lot of books. But one of the books that I really and truly found very interesting is The Color of Law. And it's about how the government creates laws and regulations that have historically created segregation, whether intended or unintended, and the economic impact that laws have on minority communities. So if you haven't read that book, The Color of Law, I highly recommend it. It's rather technical to read. Being a lawyer, I kind of like reading books that are technical in nature. But I think this is a very important book because a lot of us don't understand how communities become segregated, how some communities become run down, and others prosper. So a lot of it is because of government regulations or the lack thereof. So it's a very interesting book, The Color of Law. I highly recommend it. Thank you.
So now we'll go to closing remarks. You have 2 minutes each, and Mr. Sharp will start with you, please.
Once again, I appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you tonight. Leadership is serious business. We're electing the mayor of the city of Pensacola. The number one job of any government is to protect its citizens. The second job is to ensure it has the basic services that it needs. If we don't have a safe city, nothing else matters. Don't worry about economic development. If we don't have a safe city, it doesn't matter. I am the only person sitting up here tonight with 30 plus years of proven leadership. My early 20s, I was making life and death decisions as a firefighter and a paramedic. At the school district, from day one, I was dealing with significant issues. I started there shortly after September 11th. If you recall from back then, they were having a lot of bomb threats in our schools. I was tasked with fixing that. I had to go out and work with federal, state, and local agencies, develop a plan, put it together, and implement it, which we did successfully. I also had to deal with the rising gun and gang violence back in the middle, we'll say around 2005. Once again, put together a group of folks from federal, state, and local agencies. We came up with a plan. We actually started the District 1 Gang Task Force. I was an inaugural member of that, and we took care of the problem. We never had a shooting on our school grounds. We were very fortunate. There was a lot of stuff going out there. I had to deal with environmental issues at our schools. For those of you that may remember, a brown barge had contaminated soil. I was the one that had to manage that and determine how the school district was going to deal with that. I have a history of dealing with difficult issues. I'll take care of it, I'll be on the ground, and I have the experience necessary to be mayor of Pensacola. Thank you.
Well, this has been a wonderful experience, and I'm really gratified to be here tonight. I'm running for one reason, to make sure that no one is left behind. Listen, I grew up left behind. I was raised by a single mom. We grew up in a housing project, and I have had to struggle all of my life to get where I am now. So I know what's important in life. When long before I became a member of City Council, I was a regular at the City Council meetings. At that time, they started at 7 o'clock at night, and they usually weren't over until 11 or 12 o'clock. And the reason I started coming down to City Council meetings was just to get the grass cut in my neighborhood park. You know? So that's how I got involved in forming a neighborhood association and getting involved in going down to City Council. So I've been on council for 12 years. I never dreamed of being a politician, of being on City Council. I had no use for politicians. I didn't even know who my City Council person was until I needed the grass cut in the park. But look, community engagement is where it's at. Had we not formed a neighborhood association, Burgess Road would never have been redone. The sidewalks, the drainage, and all of that, and I want to thank my colleague over here, my former colleague, for helping get the money to address that issue that is so important to 3 public schools, a street that was very dangerous. Today it has all new drainage, all new sidewalks, and it's just an example of what we need to do here. But I could not, in good conscience, take full credit for it, but I'm giving my colleague over here. Thank you, Joel.
Ms. Canada Wynn.
I thank you, and again, it's just so wonderful to see so many of you. I've never been at one of these meetings where it was just packed, so thank you so very much. I just want to remind you that I'm a 27-year educator. I'm a 20-year veteran of the United States Air Force. United States Air Force. I spent 14 years as a city council member. I am leadership ready for mayor of the city of Pensacola. We will have an inclusive government. We will have a government of transparency. We will have a government that deals with community engagement, community improvements, community policing, as well as a focus on people, focusing on people, providing resources to people. That is where I am. That's where I will be as mayor of the city of Pensacola. So give me that opportunity and vote for the right you.
People ask, what do you want to do as mayor of the city? Obviously, we can, as we saw tonight, there's a lot of topics that we can spend a lot of time on. So I usually summarize it by just saying it's time for us to be intentional about what we want this place to be. I'll tell you what intentionality means to me. What I mean is, what's our strategic plan for the city? I haven't seen one, so we're going to get one. And that means instead of deciding every 2 weeks in a council meeting what we feel like might be a good idea, what we feel like isn't, the quote I always talk about from the Urban Land Institute, Ed McMahon said, when you have no plan, everything fits in. So intentionality means we're going to have a plan about where we're going with this city. Intentionality means we're going to start measuring outcomes. We want to know how long it takes to turn a permit. We want to know that our grass is getting cut. We want to know the efficiency of sanitation and making sure that your garbage is picked up. It's real simple. We can't fix anything because we're not measuring anything. That's what intentionality means to me. So if I'm given this opportunity, I promise to give you everything I have. I said at the beginning, this is not a hobby. This is not to be the president. It's not to, I'm going to live here the rest of my life. I want to make Pensacola, where I'm from, the best possible city we can make it. And I will be on a plane every day to outselling the city, bringing those jobs to this community. We will start measuring immediately, and we'll be decisive. I'm not here. You'll agree with me sometimes, I promise. And I promise you'll disagree with me every now and then. But I promise that everything that I do, every decision that I make is going to come with data, with pragmatic research, by trusting great people who work in our city, and I promise to give you every ounce I have to make the Pensacola the city that we all know it can be. So I really appreciate your support on August 23rd. Thank you.
Let's give each candidate a hand tonight. We want to thank each of these candidates for coming out tonight and sharing their opinions and views of our great city. We also want to thank each of you for coming out and being here to listen to what our future leaders have to say. We hope the forum has provided valuable information to assist you in deciding your vote for our next mayor. There will be another forum this Friday night, July 29th, starting at 6:30 at the Victory Center. Please tell anyone interested in the mayoral race to attend, and if they were not able to attend this evening, we would like for them to be there for us. Let's give them another hand, and good night, everyone.
testing. Did yours cut in and out about 20 times?
No, sir, I have no Wi-Fi.
Well, as I was going to ask you, what are they going to do with Wi-Fi in this building? 'Cause we lost our phone, like, I changed phones even. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to ask. Thanks.